Mafia. We the Mafia.
We the Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia.
You know who the beast in the AFC EAST? We gon' grind this thing out for 17 weeks, yeah. You hating on the Bills, then you way off. Talk is cheap, meet us in the playoffs. Game day, you know we going off. Got your team captain shaking at the coin toss. We say Mafia, that means family to me, cause we stand with the team, best fans in the league.
Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia. Let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go. We the Mafia.
Yeah, it's the Bills Mafia. This is what we gon' do. This our season. It's our time. It's our time. Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia.
Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Reppin' the Mafia, yeah. Reppin' the Mafia, Bills, Mafia, yeah. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable.
What's up, Bills Mafia? Welcome to the Bills Mafia post-game show. I am Justice General Rafford. That's my brother Jake Jordan. We here with another victory for the Buffalo Bills. This time up against the NFC, not rival, NFC opponent, the Chicago Bears. Scrappy team, but the Bills went out there, they got it done, and they got them a nice, comfortable win. Maybe wasn't the prettiest first half, but they came back and they showed out in the second half. So we're going to talk about it today. Of course, I have a man, like I said, Jake Jordan with me today. How you feeling today, Jake? How you feeling about that win, bro?
I'm feeling as good as you can about a game that felt like it had so many ups and downs. It was kind of like there were a lot of things that I liked, a lot of things I didn't. They kind of came around towards the end, and I think it's going to be a healthy discussion that we can have here about the Bills because there's quite a few things that we got to talk about.
There is, and healthy discussion kind of sounds like there's some things that you're not so happy with, Jake. Would you say that's fair? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I'd say so. I said a couple of weeks ago that all I wanted for Christmas was for the Bills to learn how to tackle. And it still seems as though I'm not going to be getting my Christmas gift this year. But they turned it up a little bit more in the second half, but it's still looking like one of the worst tackling teams in the league.
Second half, they didn't do so bad tackling, but that first half was pretty atrocious. We're going to be giving you guys some trending topics today, and we're stopping the run is one of those things. In the first half, the trending topic would really go down. It'd be down, especially after the first series there. Montgomery stomping all over down the field on us, and it kind of puts.
It looked like the damn Madden cast.
Yeah, it did. It did look a lot like the Madden cast, honestly. The whole it kind of puts like a stigma on the Bills, right? It kind of make it seem like, there's a blueprint to beat the Bills. You have to run the ball, this, and et cetera, et cetera. What was your thoughts today on how the Bills handled the run in the first half? I know you just said, one of the worst tackling teams in the league, but, they didn't let them get too many points. Overall, how did you see it?
Yeah, I still felt like it was that bend but don't break defense, right? So they were letting them have it. They let them have it, but then towards the end, they kept them out of the end zone. That's fine. The Bills have done that for years. That's kind of been their MO. And the thing is, people, they can go ahead and try to write that game plan, like, hey, this is how you beat the Bills. Except if you look at the last 2 weeks, when the Bills haven't been able to stop the run, the other team has still lost. So it was like, go ahead, let that be part of your game plan. But that's not necessarily going to equal a dub against the Buffalo Bills, because even in a bad loss like this, they still put up 35 and they still pulled out the dub. So, I still think that, just fundamentally, the tackling is kind of the issue that's allowing some of these big runs. Plus, it might be some of the inexperience in the secondary, especially when it comes to like the safeties like Damar Hamlin, or even guys like just miscommunications between guys like Dane Jackson, things that are allowing some of these runs to happen. Just things that I think that need to be cleaned up by the Bills, but I think a lot of it might have to do with not having the most experience in that secondary.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that kind of brings me to my follow-up question as far as the tackling pertains to, where do you think the issues are coming from in the lack of tackling, if you will? Would you say it's more of like a defensive line issue where maybe they're not getting enough push, a linebacker issue where maybe they're not finding gaps correctly, or like a secondary issue where they're not able to help in run support and they're just falling off of like running backs?
A lot of it, I mean, if you just break it down by what you see on the surface, it is definitely just a lack of following through in your tackles from your secondary. I mean, when you see the linebackers get down there, like, who are the guys that you saw mostly stuff the run today? It was the guys on the line, and it was the linebackers going out there. Whenever it really got to the running backs getting to the second level, that's when the guys weren't able to wrap up, weren't able to possibly be in the spots that they needed to be in, and they weren't executing the right way. And that's kind of the word that you got to kind of just look at it, and that they're just not executing. It's a technique issue, and they're not really following through. Now, whether it be, I mean, a lot of these games are in terrible weather, right? So they're in terrible weather. It's hard to tackle a dude, especially out in space like that. But it's been a problem all year, not just in these last few terrible weather games. So it's definitely just a technique issue that I think you know maybe it's supposed to be able to be coached out of these guys, but I haven't seen it coached out of them yet this year.
Yeah, it. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like when you look at the highlights or some film on the team, and you watch a safety go up against like a tight end, and they'll just literally like dive at their feet.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot of what we see, especially from the Bills secondary. It seems like those guys don't want to hit it all, excluding Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, who isn't playing right now. Jordan Poyer will put a hit on somebody. He's not too afraid. But a lot of those other guys, I mean, I hate to say this, but Damar Hamlin included, probably first and foremost, isn't really trying to make the tackle. They're out there making Deion Sanders business decisions without the Deion Sanders, defensive awareness and ball skills. So it's like, I'd like to see them make a few more plays, make a little bit more effort. You guys are out there. You're the fastest people on the field, and I mean, listen, man. I'm not saying that anybody isn't playing hard, but behavior, would tell us that these guys maybe don't want to make the tackle. So, I've seen running backs that are way slower than some of our safeties and corners run past our safeties and corners. And I don't know if that's not like because they want to avoid trying to make that tackle. I don't know what it is, but it seems like they try to avoid making the tackle for a lot of the times. And it's something that has really become a problem. But they need to shore it up before the season is over. They need to take these opportunities here versus the Bengals and the Patriots in the last two games of the season to get tackling down, because who's hard to tackle? Travis Kelce in January. Who's hard to tackle? Derrick Henry in January. You know what I mean? I don't care who you play. Like even if we do get this first round bye, we're probably gonna have to see fourth or fifth seed, you know what I mean, in that second round there, which, you know, could easily end up being a Ravens squad who, you know, who's hard to tackle in January? Lamar freaking Jackson, you know, so like, come on, guys, we have got to get it together. And honestly, I'm a little afraid. It does give me cause for pause. Another thing that gave me cause for pause there in the first half. Again, you know, we're just going to talk about the first half right now. We'll get into the second half later. Josh's decision making. It wasn't the prettiest. It wasn't the prettiest. This is what PFF would grade as like a really, really bad half. You know, they do the whole turnover worthy plays and this and that. He had a few where it was like, "Ooh, Josh, what are you doing?" He had 2 interceptions and 2 what very well could have or should have been interceptions. You know, on he threw it back across his body without seeing the corner playing the flat. He came up to, you know, cover Gabe. And then there was another one where it could have been intercepted, but I'm blanking right now.
Do we want to talk about the double coverage on Isaiah McKenzie
and that goes
the safety,
into it as well? That goes into it as well. What did you think about Josh's decision making there in the first half?
It was just really, really, like, usually we always like to have a scapegoat, right? Talking about the Bills, we like to be like, sometimes like, oh no, it's the play calling, or oh, like he's getting no help from the offensive line, so he makes these mistakes because he's forced to go out. No, Josh Allen was terrible in the first half. All right. Like, of course, he cleans it up in the second half. I have him in fantasy. I follow his stats very closely. So he was just like off, making the wrong like reads, getting fooled by defenses sometimes, where it's just kind of like, oh, you should know that guy's there, but you know, he just gets caught with it. And sometimes it's just like, Josh, what are you doing, man? We've had a lot of those before where it's like, Josh, what are you doing, man? Come on, don't do that. And sometimes it pays for it. It kept the Bears in this game a lot longer than they had any business being in it. And that's kind of, you know, the thing that a lot of people are going to go, oh, well, you live and die with that with Josh Allen. That's that gunslinger. It's like, yeah, but I still would like my gunslinger to, you know, think a little bit more out on the field, be a little bit smarter with that, which we've seen Josh Allen can be that. So, yeah, I mean, you got to knock him for that. That's definitely on him. He's going to have to wear that. But it was definitely, let's see. I'm just now getting some comments in here. It's Josh Hero Ball. Yeah, it's him just trying to make a play, thinking that he can outsmart a defense, and it's just not working. Didn't work for him in the first half.
Yeah, I think Coach Boone said it very well here. Last week he carried them. Last week he was absolutely phenomenal. He looked like the MVP Josh that we all know and love. And this week he kind of was mediocre. In the first half, we're talking about the first half because he did come back and ball in the second half, which, you know, we are going to get into as well. However, Jake, I got a question for you. You are familiar with Buffalo, you know, the conditions, the weather. Obviously, I am as well. You were born in Buffalo, weren't you?
No, my father was.
Right.
I pretty much I haven't had to live in Buffalo at any point in my life, but you know.
But you're familiar with it. You were there at the Vikings game, to where we got the first snow of the year. So like you know.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with this new stadium was, should the Bills build a dome or not? And you know, there were a lot of people saying, no, the Bills should not build a dome. For a lot of different reasons, because it's more expensive. You know, because it gives the Bills an advantage there, you know, playing outdoors in the elements in Western New York. So I want to ask you, Jake, I mean, the whole thing about the Bills getting a dome, that has gone and passed, right? They've already got the specs for the new stadium. We already know what
it's outdoor stadium. Like. It's open air. Yep.
Is the inclement weather an actual advantage for the Buffalo Bills?
No, and everyone's going to be like, well, just look at Josh Allen. Look at he can play through this weather. And I think, yeah, sure, he can play through the weather. But the thing about this is it's not an advantage unless you're a team who builds your team to play in that advantage. And the Bills, the last couple of years, have not been
Beige.
that damn
Oh,
team. They play as if they're the Rams who are playing in SoFi Stadium. That's how their team is built, right? And today in the weather, what they do? Well, they did turn to a run game. They showed that they can, kind of run the ball, but 9 times out of 10, guess what? They'd rather be playing in a dome. They would much rather be playing in the dome. And I understand everyone's like, well, it's an outdoor stadium. If you're going to be a team in Western New York, then you should build your team to play in the elements of Western New York, blah, 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 whatever. Excuse. Whatever you want to say. You know damn well if you were playing out there, you wouldn't want to be playing in that weather either. You know you wouldn't. You know, if it was a dome, they could run any kind of event in there all year round, bring more money to your city. It just made sense. It wasn't just, oh, so our team can play in the dome. Oh, well, they won't be ready to play in other teams' situations in January. They just showed, yes, they can. They are a team who can play in those elements when they have to. Like, it's not just because they practice outside. Like, the dome just made sense. Now, I understand why some people are old school. No, we gotta, it's still a weather advantage. If we were to build a team that could play in those elements, I understand. But right now, at this current moment, the way this Bills team is constructed, it is not an advantage, and a dome would have been 100% the way to move. However, they're also looking in the future. Who knows what this team looks like when Josh Allen's older? Who knows how they construct that team 10 years from now when Josh Allen maybe isn't the same quarterback and they have to lean more on run games and then maybe it's an advantage. So I see both sides of the argument now. It'd be very hard for you to, try to convince me that a dome in Buffalo didn't make sense.
yeah, I'm there with you. I kind of feel like it makes the most sense, and I understand the arguments.
Mm.
I don't, but I pretend to. Because I don't really care either which way. I
Yeah.
am kind of there every week now, but I'm not like in the stadium every week. I'm in the area, and it's cold either way because I got to deal with it either way. But if I'm looking at it, I say, all right, you're building this could quadruple trillion $1,000,000,
Yeah.
just palace of a stadium. You finally have a team that is good. It's a perennial playoff team. You have a
Mhm.
perennial MVP candidate. You have a perennial Super Bowl contender. And they say you shouldn't build your stadium based off of what your current situation is of the football
Mhm.
team. But I mean, we got uh, a generational talent here. Josh
Mhm.
Allen gives you a premium over 99% of the other quarterbacks in the NFL. And the only one quarterback who he doesn't give you a premium over is Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes can
Mhm.
pretty much do a lot of what Josh can do, aside
Sure.
from the running ability, right? I would say that is where Josh separates himself from Patrick Mahomes. But he is better than 99% other quarterbacks. So now you're going to even the playing field by having them in inclement weather, because Josh is, yeah, he's going to be
Mhm.
able to rip through the wind, but it's not going to be pretty all the time. So then you are going to say, all right, well, the other quarterback on the other team is basically going to be eradicated completely as far as throwing the ball is concerned, right?
Mhm.
So now you're in a situation where the Bills have to stop the run. Oh, that's their weakness.
Mhm.
So you're putting them up. You're kind of making the situation favorable for any team that goes up against the Bills. Don't let a good team, a team with a good rushing attack and it stops the
Mhm.
run very well, come into Buffalo in January, because we could very well lose that game. We could.
Yeah.
You saw what Jonathan Stewart did to us last year at home. Dalvin Cook had that long ass run on us back here, the game we were at. We've seen it happen before.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it this year. I mean, the Bills, they could lock up on. Honestly, I will love to see, what happens this year when the Bills, if they beat Cincinnati next weekend or next week, they will pretty much, I'm going to say, lock up the 1 seed. Unless the New England Patriots completely turn into a different team that we've never seen before in the last week of the season. And we could very well be seeing the scenario of what happens if there's terrible weather. And like Roy's saying, it's a completely different team 4 years now. I hope so. I hope James Cook is like 90% of what his brother is, and we don't have to worry about if we have to lean on a run game. But just kind of, we're going to see this year what happens that if we don't have a team that consistently can stop the run in inclement weather in Buffalo in January, how much maybe getting a dome would have benefited us. But again, some people just like being out in the elements. They actually do view it as an advantage. And, while the players probably don't see it as much, maybe, if the team's constructed the right way, it will be. But I'm just saying at this current moment, the way this Bills team is made, it's a real hindrance.
It is. It's absolutely a hindrance. And, I think it's very interesting how the Buffalo Bills choose to draw up their schemes, knowing what we know as far as the situation goes with the Bills being a inclement weather team. They are playing outdoors. They have a quarterback who can do just about anything. But then you go ahead and you have like a zone run type of scheme, right? You have your offensive linemen kind of, you do a lot of RPOs and, hey, I get the option, pass run option is obviously what an RPO is. Run pass option, excuse me. Sorry, guys. And then you also have a defensive line where it's like more finesse than anything. Don't get me wrong, Daquan Jones is a strong MFer. Tim Settle is a strong MFer. Jordan Phillips is a strong MFer. But when you look at, your Shaq Lawsons, your AJ Epinesses, your Greg Russos, hell, your Von Millers, these guys aren't like power guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're finesse guys.
They're
100%.
Exactly, finesse guys. So, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it isn't like super run stop proficient, right? You kind of have to. The Bills are a team that invites you to run the football, yes, but if you are going to be playing in inclement weather, I don't know. In my brain, it doesn't suit you to have a power running style. Like, why would you not absolutely do everything in your power to make the trenches the most vicious, disgusting human beings that we could find on the planet that are just, you know what I mean? Like, that are just going to go out there and do whatever they have to do. They're out there ready to eat kneecaps or bite kneecaps or whatever the hell he said, right? You would think that this is going to be the type of offensive line, defensive line that they would put around, but it's not really. And Ed Oliver, he's kind of small.
Yes,
it makes sense why people can kind of double team him, take him out, and run up the middle. I don't know, man. It's just kind of it's a little, that part of all the things that Brandon Beane has done and Sean McDermott have done. It's that part that I don't understand. You see, because when I look at the run game, I look at Peyton Manning, I look at Kurt Warner when he was with the Greatest Show on Turf, right?
Tom Brady.
I look at Tom Brady. Thank you. And I'm looking at all these quarterbacks, and I say they're great. Some of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen.
Yeah.
3 of the maybe top 10. You put Kurt Warner in there, maybe top 15 quarterbacks of all time. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning are both two of the top 3 ever, right? And what did they have? They had power run schemes. Their offensive lines were phenomenal. These guys were man eaters, right? And then it's like with us, you got the offensive line stepping back every play. They don't get to go out there and be aggressive. And when they do get to go out there and be aggressive, I think it's very interesting. I feel like today, or not today, but for maybe the back half of the season now, the Bills have turned into a power run team, right?
Yeah.
And it seems to be, showing some signs of life, including today where the Buffalo Bills almost, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they had two 100-yard rushers today. The
Yep.
Buffalo Bills had two 100-yard rushers today, and neither of them were Josh Allen. Can we a round of applause for Buffalo Bills here? Two 100-yard rushers, and neither of them were Josh Allen. Devin Singletary had himself a crazy game. 12 rushes, 106 yards, 8.8 a carry. James Cook, 11 rushes, 99 yards. Obviously, that averages out to 9 yards a carry. Jake, are you happy with the rush game? Do you think this is sustainable going into the postseason?
Well, it's against the Bears, so I have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. I can't sit here and absolutely believe that this is like what our peak run game is going to look like against really good teams. But I'm still, if you watch the Madden cast, you would have known that Devin Singletary was going to go off. I mean, come on. He pretty much absolutely went off, and
Next.
kind of I loved James Cook in this game too, man. I love him and Devin Singletary as a 1-2 punch. That is truly what was shown today, is that we have
Phenomenal.
two dudes back there that if you are not going to commit to one guy to have the majority of the snaps, which the Bills never seem to want to do, uh, I don't think you can get much better than Singletary and Moss and Cook in this run scheme. The way that they're playing, like James Cook has the speed that Devin Singletary doesn't have, but Devin Singletary has the control and the absolutely ability to make a man miss that maybe James Cook doesn't have at this current moment. So I love both of these guys. I think today really showed kind of what we need going forward, kind of like at the end of last year when we really needed Devin Singletary to turn it on towards the end of the year. We started calling plays and started actually, instead of just doing zone run schemes, we were pinning and pulling a little bit and things were changing up, and you know, everything it just seemed like the whole game started to open up. Like, and Josh Allen started doing check downs to running backs and stuff, kind of like what we saw at the second half of this game, where it was just take the stuff underneath, and then once that pulls people up, that'll open stuff up in the back end. So I'm really thinking that, this is the evolution that we've been waiting for, and I think that this can be something that gets sustained going forward. Because if you have all these abilities to attack a defense, then it doesn't matter how good that defense is. With the weapons the Bills have, it should be almost they should be almost unstoppable if they can change on a dime the way they want to attack a defense, almost like they did today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. To your point, we are a little spoiled here sometimes as Bills fans. You know, and I know it, especially when you consider, the Colts didn't have great years every single year.
Oh yeah.
With Peyton Manning. I mean, they had good years every year, but not like great, amazing 13, 14 win years every single year. The
Yeah, and the
Patriots
Patriots
didn't.
didn't win the Super Bowl every single year. So
Exactly. So I wanna. There's a question down in the comment section that kind of
mm,
uh, threw me for a loop a little bit. So I
mm,
want to bring it to your attention, and I want to ask you about it.
okay.
My man Roy Collins, he says, I heard a suggestion. Won't say where. Yeah, he said trade Oliver this offseason, save Cap on his 5th-year option. Jake, what do you think of that idea?
Did Charlie say that? Did Charlie say that? That sounds like something Charlie would say. No. So I don't know where you heard this. Probably somebody who's much smarter than I. Uh, I don't think it's off the table, but I do think that maybe in the head of Brandon Bean it is. kind of they really like to draft their guys and reward their guys, the people that they end up drafting. And I think Ed Oliver, I don't think he's done anything to show why they should move off of him. If anything, he's kind of shown what happens whenever you actually give him the pieces around him on the defensive line that'll help him succeed. So I I think that, yeah, while maybe he's not the super, like amazing three technique, like everybody wants to compare him to Aaron Donald for some reason, like all the time, like you can't do that. I think that Ed Oliver, kind of where he is right now, I don't think he's as expensive as everybody thinks he's going to be. Like every single year, we kind of get into this talk. Oh, he's going to be so expensive to go re-sign. I don't think so. I don't think he's really had a season that makes you go, oh wow, give this dude top tier money. And I think that Brandon Beane will make sure and fight hard to keep Ed Oliver on the books and keep him as part of this team. So I don't think that it's like the worst option, but I also don't think it's something that will happen.
Yeah. And guys, listen, we gotta stop, okay? We have to stop comparing people to the greatest of all time at their position and then be like, well, no, we want something better. Like no, we gotta stop, yo. Aaron
He wants
Donald
money
might
now. He's not the greatest of all time. Let's not pay him.
like yeah, man. Aaron Donald might be the greatest defensive player we've ever watched, witnessed.
Yeah.
I'm here for the LT arguments.
Mm.
We obviously didn't get to watch LT in person. We
Mhm.
couldn't see his dominance firsthand. But we've seen Aaron Donald's dominance firsthand. We see that there's not a single soul on this planet that can block him one-on-one. I don't care who you are. I don't care if Goliath came down and was standing in front of Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is going to get past him. Okay. So we got to stop, guys. All right. Ed Oliver is a damn good defensive tackle. And I like him in rotation with the Tim Settle, with the DeQuan Jones, with the Jordan Phillips. I do. I was just making a point where it confused me a little bit about, the route that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott took as far as the trenches go, when you consider, the type of team that we have. Obviously, this happened before we knew Josh was going to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, talent-wise at least. He still has to, get the accomplishments. I mean, he is the highest rated playoff quarterback of all time. So, he's there to some degree already. But guys, we got to be realistic, okay? I don't want to say there's never. It's going to be a long time before there's another Aaron Donald, okay? He's up there with the Reggie Whites and the Lawrence Taylors and the Bruce Smiths, okay? So let's not call someone a bust because they aren't Bruce Smith. Like, everybody's a bust because, you know what I mean? Like, so, we got to stop with that. All right, here's the stick. This is kind of like a all game type of thing. We're going to move into the second half momentarily, right? The Buffalo Bills took away Justin Fields, which was something that was really, 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 really important. A lot of spies, and this isn't where I'm going. I'm just giving them a shout out, right? Was a lot of spies. Every time there was an option and Justin kept it, it was like the defensive end was chasing after him, and then all of a sudden you saw a Damar Hamlin or some safety, Teron Johnson. Obviously, it's not a safety, but you know what I'm trying to say. You saw someone quick, fast, who could keep up with Justin Fields, and they were right on his tail. And I think Justin Fields knew that. I think he saw that, and I think that's why you didn't see him really try to take off too much, because he saw that they had a plan for him, and he saw, because they were playing for him, there were weaknesses in other areas, and he took advantage of a couple of them. Especially in the first half, they did a pretty good job. And they moved the field a little bit. So kudos to the Bills for taking away Justin Fields. That's a Patriots measurement where, they take away the most dynamic weapon that the opposing offense has to offer.
Hey, man, and it shouldn't have surprised anybody at all. I know we didn't get to do a built different before the show or before the actual game, but yeah, we shouldn't have been surprised that they were going to neutralize Justin Fields because they do it with Lamar Jackson every single time they play Lamar
Facts.
Jackson. So they kind of knew the game plan. The only difference between Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields is that Justin Fields is a lot stronger than Lamar Jackson. Like, he will bully you when you try to tackle him. He's kind of got that ability, and the Bills were really good with that. They used that game plan, and I don't know why it's taken so many people so long to maybe try to figure that out with Justin Fields over the last couple of weeks. But the Bills they were the ones who helped write the game plan on how to defend Lamar, and now they're pretty much doing it for uh with Fields, just by doing almost the same things, the same concepts, the way they play them the exact same. So yeah, I wasn't surprised at all that they were able to neutralize Justin Fields, and you pretty much knew that once he kind of could tell that they knew kind of what the script was for the game on defense, and then they had to start throwing it and things like that. It just didn't work as much for him. Like I told the people I was watching the game with, I said, I really will see what the Chicago Bears team is made out of after their first drive, because everybody knows with the scripted first drive, almost everybody. Hell, when you watch the Jets when Adam Gase was their coach, literally their first drive almost always ended in a touchdown. And then for the rest of the game, they were terrible. Like,
first 15
it's
is
just
always. If you can't script the first 15, then you shouldn't be OC.
Yeah. So usually a team, whatever their second drive looks like, that's what I'm going to base them off of. And the Bears kind of, they had a couple of nice drives within the game, but definitely not enough to win the game. So yeah, the Bills, they kind of helped write a script on how you can help contain this version of Justin Fields. We'll see how that evolves, and hopefully with some more weapons around him, then that'll change a little bit.
All right, let's get into a little bit of quick play here. I'm just gonna ask you about something. You let me know if it's an overreaction or if it's an underreaction or
Gotcha.
makes sense. All right.
Okay.
Tyler Bass is going to be a problem heading into the playoffs.
That's an overreaction. The weather was terrible today. I mean, we've seen Tyler Bass in some pretty bad weather games, even in the playoffs, like the Baltimore game, games like that where the wind's just ripping. Today, it was just really, really cold, and the winds were crazy. Everybody knows Chicago's called the Windy City for a reason. So, yeah, I don't think Tyler Bass is going to be a problem. Towards the end of the game, he hits a couple of extra points, and, it's just kind of all well and good at the beginning of the game. It was just tough with the way that the wind was blowing in the stadium today. Not every kicker is going to have their best day. I mean, you can even go look at some other games like in the Bengals versus Patriots game today. Nick Folk and Evan McPherson, who they like to call the clutchest kicker in the league, were missing kicks all day today. Like, it's just it was a bad day, bad weather day for kickers. And yeah, I don't think Tyler Bass is going to be a problem.
Fair enough. Speaking of the AFC East, Dolphins, Patriots, and Jets all kind of folded here at the end of the season. But that has nothing to do with what I want to say. Mr. UCF himself, Jake Jordan. We talked about this a little bit before his show. I think we all like Gabe Davis, right? And I think that Gabe Davis is
we do.
Receiver.
I think a lot of us do. I think there's a lot of people on Twitter who just seem to want to be right about their Hodgins over Gabe Davis takes, so they really
that's annoying. Let's not. Okay, Hodgins is good, and I like him, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Let's not say he's not better.
I'm happy he's balling out over there with the Giants, man.
We don't know if he's better than Gabe. He could be, but he needs to prove it. He needs to go out doing far more, because Gabe Davis has the greatest game a wide receiver has ever seen in the postseason. And, until Isaiah Hodgins can consistently put up numbers, I'm not going to say he's better than Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis is solidified in this league as a good wide receiver. But that leads me to my question. do the Bills need to invest in a wide receiver number 2?
Yes, I do believe so. And I think that's just because what the definition of a wide receiver 2 is has changed. And like maybe 5 or so years ago, hopefully you can still hear me. I don't know. You kind of froze on the screen. But about, the last couple of years, the definition of a wide receiver 2 has changed. You need a guy who's pretty much almost a wide receiver 1 becoming your wide receiver 2 at this point. And Gabe Davis, I don't think that and this is a upgraded take from what I had earlier in the season when we were talking to Jay Spence, where I said he was better than a lot of other wide receiver 1s. I don't think so. I think with the ever evolving game, I think Gabe Davis has kind of limited, and I think that the Bills would probably be better suited using a first round draft pick and a wide receiver that's got generational speed. I feel like that would absolutely open up what this offense can do. You got the finesse dude and Stephon Diggs, and then you just have a dude who can absolutely cook people on the outside. Gabe Davis isn't that. Then you can start to utilize Gabe Davis in the slot. You haven't really had a reliable position person in the slot since Cole Beasley left. And even though Beasley's back, you're barely using him as well. You can use him in a bunch of different ways. But I think the traditional definition of a wide receiver 2 has changed. And I think the Bills should probably invest in the offense.
You know what? I disagree with you, but only slightly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should the Bills invest in another amazing receiver? Sure. I wouldn't be mad at it. However, I don't think Gabriel Davis is incapable of being a number 1. I don't. I see. Here's the thing, right? The way I look at film, of course, your averages matter, right? But when I look at film, I love to look at highlights because that tells me what your peak can be, right? When he's on his game, this is what he can look like if everything goes right. Okay, so if you're tutored and put in positions to succeed with a good roster around you, with a good situation, with a good organization, you could be this all the time potentially, right? That could be your new standard, right? And
just look at how open he was in the end zone today, when he got that touchdown. So.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. That's when I look at Gabriel Davis, I'm like, okay, well, his route running is phenomenal. Can't tell me otherwise. He's open a ton. He's in positions where he can make a play a ton. It just seems like his concentration lapses a lot of times. He'll, drop the football, or, he won't protect the football and he'll, get the ball knocked out of his hands or something like that. All of his shortcomings seem to be mental versus physical, right? It's not like Gabriel Davis cannot go out there and outrun people, because we've seen it happen. He an absolute burner? Kind of, for his size, he's a burner. Okay.
He's got speed, yeah.
He's got crazy speed.
He's a sneaky fast guy.
He is.
He's a sneaky fast guy.
And when I look at Gabriel, he's got the size. He goes up there and he gets footballs. He can make the spectacular catch. He's a lot like Dawson Knox to me, where it's like your highs are top 5% of talent in this league. You can make the plays, and it's kind of like those highlight plays, when, especially during draft season, obviously you have to watch tape to see, where their shortcomings lie, what they don't do great and everything like that. But when you go and watch the highlights, you're like, wow, that guy is amazing. And he can do this, he can do that. Right. That's what I see when I look at Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox. It's like, all right, they drop passes a little bit sometimes. All right, they might miss a block in it. Well, Dawson Knox might miss a block in assignment. Gabriel Davis is actually a damn good blocker. Things like that. Just these little things here. And honestly, I don't know if I could put that all on Gabe Davis. That seems to be a microcosm of the identity of what this Buffalo Bills team is. They are super talented. All right, uber talented. Then they have, mental lapses in judgment where they just make a stupid decision for absolutely no reason, or they just be down in the red zone and you just fumble out of nowhere, or Josh will just be like, I'm just gonna throw it to the defense for no, you know what I mean? Like it's not just Gabriel Davis. Like it seems to be something that this offense does way too often. I don't know if we still are now, but I remember at one point in the season, this couldn't be earlier than like week 13, we were the highest percentage turnover for any offense in the NFL, which means that when we got the football, we turned the ball over at a highest percentage than anybody else. It was like, we don't punt. You're either going to let us score or we're going to give you the ball. That's how the Bills' MO was for a really, really long time. And they still do that. We see Josh out there trying to make things happen, trying to be Superman. It's like, all right, Josh, you know what? You got to learn how to be Clark Kent before you can be Superman. And we've seen him be Superman. We know he can be Superman, right? But at the same time, it's like, don't forget how to be Clark Kent either. You know what I mean? Because if you're just Superman all the time, then people are going to adapt to that. You're not going to be able to live in society. People are going to be on 10 at all times, right? And that's what they are. They're like, well, Josh is not going to dump the ball off. Well, just cover it deep downfield. Let's put pressure on him and things like that. So it's kind of like an offensive thing for me. It's not just Gabriel Davis. I actually think that Gabriel Davis is going to be a phenomenal number 2 one day. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know why it seems like the offense just can't focus. It's a little frustrating, honestly. I think and I'm going to get, I want to get your opinion about this as well. I really think it has a lot to do with the inexperience of a Ken Dorsey.
Yeah. No, I agree with that too. The whole time you're sitting there talking, I'm going like, this could also be the thing we've been talking about all year, which is Ken Dorsey not just scheming these dudes open. I mean, we saw games where literally the routes, it was literally the last game, we saw Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie were in the exact same spot when they were running their routes. Like, it's just kind of like, what is that concept? Why are they all both in the same spot at the same time? Yeah, why? What's going on here? Why was Stephon Diggs not used today whenever they weren't really giving safety help over on his side for a lot of times? Almost looked like Josh wasn't even looking at him. Or maybe that's because they were just not implementing Steph in the game plan at all. Like, it's just kind of like, all right, what is going on with Ken Dorsey? Now, obviously, got cleaned up at the end of the game, and Josh turned into more of that Clark Kent, like you were talking about, not as much Superman, and taking the easy things, and they implemented the run game, and it started to go. But yeah, I think that a lot of it could come down to, I mean, Ken Dorsey's still a first-year play caller, man, and we got to see how does he evolve. And I hate to keep beating it like it's a dead horse, but Brian Daboll didn't become Brian Daboll until year 3. Like we wanted him gone after the first 2 years. He wasn't really getting it. And then boom, he started really learning and implementing these schemes that were getting these dudes open, making them just look like absolute studs because they were executing a great game. And right now, when you got a first-year play caller, yeah, there's going to be some hiccups. And I mean, you saw today, Gabe Davis, he coughs up that ball, but outside of that, he had some pretty clutch grabs. And if he had, stayed in bounds on that one sideline catch, then probably a lot more people will be singing his praises today. But I think it all has to do with consistently scheming everybody open. And I feel like Ken Dorsey hasn't done that on a consistent enough basis.
So do you think the Bills maybe need an OC with more experience, or do you think they should let it ride with Ken Dorsey?
I wouldn't hate. I think that they'll keep letting Dorsey, continue to evolve. I mean, we saw the leash they had with Brian Daboll. They let him have a couple of years, and then he became.
See, the only reason I ask is because that was different. The Daboll thing. He had a rookie quarterback in Josh Allen. They had to grow together. Josh is grown.
The leash was a lot longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the leash was a lot longer with Dayball. So, I mean, when you got guys out there like Frank Reich who are going to be sitting there waiting for a job and stuff like that, like it's just kind of like, will they? I feel like they've got more of a reason why they would move off of Dorsey, but I feel like their pride, it will make them. We've seen this team is very prideful. This staff and the organization are very prideful. They will stick to their guns, even if maybe it's not the best exact decision. And maybe keeping Dorsey is going to be that. But I don't know. I feel like that's a decision that we can talk about more when it comes to the off season. But yeah, it's going to be a lot harder to just sit here and just expect that Dorsey's just going to keep getting better when he might not, and it might hold this team back in their window. So,
yeah, I agree. Thinking about a return to Buffalo for Frank Reich got me wagging my tail over here. Oh man, that is talk about it. That would be different. I think it'll have to do with what happens in the playoffs, right? I think that'll be a huge part of what happens with that. I tend to agree with you. I think that they are going to keep Ken Dorsey, but if they have like a meltdown, I could see them maybe potentially going into another direction, because it's like the Bills don't really have an identity. It's like, all right, let's go out there, Josh. I'm going to call a play, and if and when that play breaks down, you make something happen, and we'll all be happy. And that's literally what it seems like it is out there a lot of times, and Josh really internalizes that a lot of times, and I think that's why you see him being out there trying to make absolutely crazy things happen, is because there's a lot of pressure on him. There is no real help. You see them throwing bubble screens that go absolutely nowhere. We know in Madden casting in real life they can't do a screen to save their life.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because on Twitter, immediately when that screen got blown up, I was going to be like, well, I guess Madden is right. The Bills, they're not allowed to have a successful screen, man.
They suck at screens. And it's so wild, because you have James Cook and Devin Singletary who will be great screen backs. Like, we saw what happened when Devin Singletary gets into a screen and it works. I don't know if you guys remember, but Devin Singletary's rookie year, he was phenomenal with the screens. There was a screen versus the Washington football team where he gets like 60 yards, something crazy like that. He's got blockers out in front of him, and he follows his blocks so well. Getting Devin Singletary into space with blockers is always going to call for a big play. There was
and then they pulled him out for Frank Gore.
Bro, he's gonna make me mad
because they got that pride where they
oh
gotta
my
keep
god, bro, that's the stupidest thing ever. Why are you okay, all right, fucking Zach Moss. Oh my god.
Love Frank Gore though. Love Frank Gore. But
yes, Frank Gore, you're a legend. Should not have been playing even a monolith of the same amount of time as Devin Singletary. I'm sorry. You should have been the guy that comes in when we need a yard. Okay.
Yeah.
But Devin Singletary should have been the back every other down. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's whatever. There's a reason I'm sitting here and they're sitting there. So I'm just going to trust their process, right? I am happy with. I kind of want to get into the second half, and I know we're almost out, and so we can speed it up or whatever. But looking at the second half, the Bills kind of found their groove a little bit. Josh was, more precise with his decision making, right?
Yeah,
he wasn't all over the place. He kind of had an idea of what he wanted to get done. The run game really, 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 really picked up there in the second half. Those guys look good, man. Those guys look good. So we'll talk about the second half a little bit, especially, the running game. I don't know. I was so happy seeing those guys out there running the way that they did, especially after me saying that Devin Singletary would make a Pro Bowl if he got the appropriate carries and everybody killing me on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because I like, bro, look at his production. He averages 5 yards a pop for his career
Is that
with a
the
terrible
meme
O
that
line.
is that the meme that you posted? And then it was like everybody hated Justice, but he was speaking like that was.
Yeah, most people
I was
rejected his
laughing at that
message.
one.
It's like they hated
Yeah,
Justice because he told them the truth. Look, bro, like
I love. I
here's
loved it.
my logic, and I say this all the time, but like I don't know, maybe my brain
Uh-huh.
just works different than everybody else's. I'm saying you got a running back, okay? Whenever you see him get tackled in the backfield, it's not his fault. Like he
Yeah.
touches the football and immediately he has the defender in his face. He rarely ever gets hit by the first person. He got agility out of this world. He can cut on a let's say a quarter. Oh no,
Cut
let's
on
say a
a
nickel.
quarter.
He could cut on a nickel. Maybe
Yeah,
not
cut
quite
on
a
a
dime
nickel,
like
yeah.
Shady, but he could cut on a nickel, right? He
Mhm.
doesn't have all world breaker beater speed, but who cares if you have world beater speed if you can't get to the second level because your offensive line is not giving you anything.
Yeah.
So now you have a guy whose offensive line isn't helping him out very much. He frequently has plays where he's hit immediately in the backfield. You know, when he it should be a 2-3 yard loss, he'll still pick up 2 yards. So now that is taking his average down dramatically. Imagine if he had an O-line that could actually block on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
What would his game looks like? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you, I can give you an idea of what his game might look like. It might look like 12 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 8.8 yards a pop.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I do think he is a Pro Bowl talent, given the opportunity. And you know, if they would stop giving his carries to everybody else, I'm not mad at James Cook because I do feel like James Cook is finally a running back who actually is in the same talent stratosphere as him. I don't think Zach Moss was. I don't think who was that? Matt Breida was. I don't think Frank Gore was. LaShawn McCoy. I'm still trying to figure out releasing Sean McCoy to keep Frank Gore. That I still don't understand. So the running back room has seemed to be a little inconsistent. A little inconsistent under the McBean regime, but they do so much right that it's like you're really going to nitpick this right now. You know what I mean? But I don't know. What do you think? Devin Singletary could be the running back of the future?
I think that, like I said earlier, him and James Cook, that could be your 1-2 punch for the longest time. And if that eventually changes, where you know your 1-2 punch is James Cook is the main guy, and then Devin Singletary is the second guy who's also doing just well, like it doesn't matter to me. Like I think that those two dudes, if you get blocking, here's where the real shift happened today. They took Ryan Bates out as center, and they put Greg Van Roten in, and I was not really. Mike Hartle says Room needs a Blackshear. Blackshear had a rushing touchdown today. He did.
I said this.
Well, so,
I said we should have kept Blackshear instead of Zach Moss. And now he out there balling.
Yeah, I mean, I would have kept him over Zach Moss too. Maybe if, but Blackshear wouldn't have been doing what he was doing if he was still here. That's just the sad reality of our running back.
I wouldn't even be mad at it. I just would like even if he just played that fourth option, third option, whatever. I mean, obviously you got Naeem Hines, who's the special team, so he's going to contribute. But still having him there just in case. He does more than Zach Moss. Okay, never mind. Just go ahead.
But just this that switch that they made at center, it was almost like they completely changed the way that they were going to keep blocking. And what happened? When you saw Devin Singletary, either he's going to just pull up, go to the left, you could just see, oh, there's the space, and then he hits it, and it's like, oh, yep, there it is. Consistent blocking, giving them lanes to run through. I mean, James Cook, I put out a tweet because there was one of those moments where the announcer says something that maybe is a little sus, and he was like, Devin Singletary squirts into the secondary. And I was like, I'm like, yo, hold on.
God, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Like, wait a minute. But it's true, dude. Like, he just found the lane and then boom, just hit it right through the hole, and he was right into the secondary. So it's like I think that with consistent blocking, both of these dudes that we have on our roster are effective running backs and can affect the game as a result of good blocking. And today was just a good example of it. A great example of it. 2 almost 100-yard rushers. I mean, come on. When have we ever seen that from the Bills? When this modern Bills, when have we seen that? Not often. Don't think we've ever seen it.
I'm about to say, if one of them's not the quarterback, we might have seen it with LaShawn McCoy and Tyrod Taylor, but I don't know, man. That's I'm happy as hell right now. Like, I don't think y'all understand. I remember not last year, a couple of years ago, when Devin Singletary ran all over Denver. He had over 100 yards rushing, and I was happy as hell that day.
That was the game to clinch. That was the game to clinch the AFC East that year too.
Sure was. So, you
need to clinch the division. Run Devin Singletary.
Yes. So let's get more into the second half of the game, where the Bills looked a lot more efficient and effective. First of all, talk to me about what you saw in that second half that impressed you, or kind of gave you cause for pause.
So there were still a couple of plays that I wish Josh Allen would take back maybe a little bit. Some of the throws he's making across the field, and you're like, oh, that should have been picked off and stuff like that. But he really tuned that back, and you really saw a lot of effective short throws that just marched us down the field and kind of just set us up in positions to where the defenses had no idea, do we need to play up? Like, do we just keep playing back? And then that opened up the whole game for them, and they were able to just continue to punish the Bears, whether it was on the ground or through the air. It was balanced. And it's exactly what kind of was missing in the first half and in some of these games recently is Steelers game looks like the North Pole. I'm not even watching it. I'm in a back room here, but I cannot wait to go out and see the North Pole. But I think that it was more balanced, and it makes defenses actually on their heels more if they are not sure exactly how you're about to hit them. Because if they think, oh, they're just going to try to throw it all over the field, they kind of know how many people they got to play back in coverage. But whenever you're absolutely dominating the line of scrimmage and running all over them as well, then they're kind of back and they're like, what do we do? Then you have to pick your poison. And, we saw what happened with the Bears in the second half. They picked their poison and they died pretty much, and they ended up losing the game. So it's just kind of like really confusing, and it's making it more confusing for defenses when they have to try to figure out what the Bills are going to do when they play a more balanced style of football.
Yeah. And I think that balanced style of football is actually going to come in handy here in the postseason. I think a game like this is exactly what you want to have to kind of have your opponents beware a little bit. You think you figure this out. You think that, we're just a Josh Allen centric team, which, I mean, we are. But, even the sun doesn't have dominion over the earth, for all 24 hours in the day. I mean, it does, but not the entire earth, right? The moon comes out once in a while and lights up the sky. So it doesn't have to always be Josh Allen. All right, a couple more things before we get up out of here, right? I have to ask, okay. Stephon Diggs had 2 catches today.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the top receivers, your Devontae Adams, your Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson's, those guys, they don't really take a game off, right? It's not like, they took away AJ Brown today. That doesn't happen. Why does Dorsey not involve Diggs more?
If I had the answer to that, Justice, I'd love to be able to give it to you because it feels like maybe Stephon Diggs just I, it feels like that has to come down to Josh Allen too, right? It's not just Stephon Diggs not being able to get separation or anything. He's going against a rookie cornerback against the Chicago Bears who sometimes Josh Allen just wasn't over there looking at him.
Yeah, he got
Like
separation.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like maybe it's because a lot of these other teams, they don't have anybody else outside of that number one guy to really look at like that. They don't have somebody else who they're gonna outside of maybe Joe Burrow and the Bengals having, Jamar Chase and T.
T.
Higgins, and you got
Higgins, Tyler
Tua
Boyd.
with and you got Tua with Jalen Waddle. Those guys, even though it seems like those offensive coordinators, they they sometimes just go, I know we got all this talent, but let's feed it all through Tyreek or let's feed it all through Jamar. Or a lot of their plays also where those guys look like they take over a game really just comes from because the play breaks down and those dudes are absolute game changers, where they have just that down the field speed where quarterbacks can just fling it down there to them. So it makes it look like they have more of an impact than maybe they do. And then when you got a team like the Raiders, I mean, outside of Devontae Adams, who are they throwing it to? I mean, they haven't had Hunter Renfrow or Darren Waller the last 5 weeks.
Right.
So it's just kind of like everything runs through those guys as well. And then when Devontae Smith steps up, maybe that's a game where A.J. Brown kind of takes a step down in some game. Like today, Devontae Smith had like 2 touchdowns and like 100 and something yards. And A.J. Brown, I think it was like 80, 90 yards, something like that. Nothing crazy. I mean, that's still crazy, 80, 90 yards, but not like 2 touchdowns or anything like that. And it wasn't even Jalen Hurts throwing it to him. So, like, Stephon Diggs, I just feel like maybe the Bills don't feel like they have to force everything through him if they feel like that there's a better game plan. And I don't think Stephon Diggs is a guy who is commanding that you run everything through him because he's a team player and he knows that, hey, like they scored 35 points today. I'm sure he's not going to be mad that he didn't get the ball, you know? So if they lost, it'd be a completely different story. And we'd be sitting here complaining about Dorsey, but we still won. I still feel like they need to keep him more involved. But yeah, it's confusing. Yeah, there's not just a one-shot answer. This is why they're not using Stephon Diggs. It's weird.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, and that kind of brings up an internal dilemma, an internal battle that I'm having with myself. Right, I'm stuck between the middle of 2 spots where one spot is winning is the best perfume ever. Right, it's
Yeah.
like you can think of all these things that your team are doing wrong, and if you
Mhm.
losing games, then they become a lot more prominent. But it's also like 12-3. So it's like
Mhm.
how much can we really complain? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So which one are you leaning more towards? Do you think for this Bills team it would be best to describe them as winning being the best perfume because they have a lot of issues but they seem to be able to overcome them, or
Mhm.
maybe Bills fans are just becoming a little bit spoiled?
Um, I think that you can't say. I mean, some Bills fans, of course, were spoiled. We're going to the postseason, what, for the 5th time in 6 years uh after 17 years of no playoffs. So it's kind of like, yeah, we've kind of developed a new standard. Uh, but you also have to be objective when you look at the team. And yeah, they're still a very talented team. They've still got things that they just do absolutely phenomenally. They're a team that wins, but I think a lot of us now have kind of shifted our focus to the Super Bowl. What wins the Super Bowl? And a lot of teams, maybe they don't have things that they're just masking over, the perfume on the pig. You can't like it's just kind of like, yeah, we got to see what this team has deficiencies in. they're a terrible tackling team. They're not consistent enough on their offensive line play. Like, I swear we have a different offensive line combination out every single week. Their offensive play calling is not consistent enough and does not look like a team that, is fully gelled together and is capable of winning a Super Bowl. I think they are, but I think that, the play calling could be the thing that runs us into the ground and ends our season early. I truly think it does. And I think that it has to be addressed. So definitely, I think that, yeah, we're a little spoiled, but I also think that, yeah, the wins kind of do mask a lot of the problems that we have.
Yeah, they do absolutely, and I think that's the perfect answer. It's a little bit of both. All right, before we get up out of here, Jake Nostradamus Jordan, we have next week, 2 days before my birthday, I might add, January 2nd. The Buffalo Bills are going to be taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, who,
yeah,
I mean, hey, they're good, you know what I mean? What I think they're 10 and
they looked
4.
pretty pedestrian today, to be completely honest with you.
And that's where I was, is exactly where I was
Yeah.
going with this, right? Last week rather, they are getting smacked across the room against the terrible Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they, kind of had what it took to be able to come out and get the W, right? Today, they kind of went toe to toe. It was like down to the wire with it all but terrible. I mean, the very, very mediocre New England Patriots, and they beat them by 4 points.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills haven't looked so hot either. Next Monday Night Football, next Monday night in Buffalo, New York, Monday Night Football, the Bills play the Bengals. Give us your super duper early thoughts on how this game is going to go.
Okay, so yeah, just to break down what happened today, Joe Burrow threw like 280 yards in the first half, and then after that first half, just absolutely did not do much of anything.
Oh wow!
And that defense really, they just let the New England Patriots come back in the game, and it's the complete opposite of honestly what happened with the Bills today. Where the first half we stunk, really, just in the grand scheme of things, and in the second half we turned it on. The Bengals did the complete opposite of what we did. And I feel like that, yeah, this team, it's not going to be a easy one, to be quite frank with you. I think that we've got Patriots game, and it really was.
I didn't see what happened.
So I'm in a house right now with a Patreon, so I had the game on for her at the same time while I was watching, and that was just watching the end of that game was just terrible. But it was no, this game's gonna be really hard to predict because when the Bengals are on, they're on, dude. Like that offense is a wagon. The thing is we've never really seen these two teams go against each other either. The Bengals avoided the Bills in the playoffs last year. The problem with this team is they can go cold really fast. And we've seen it. They go cold, and it's like even when they have all these dudes like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst at tight end, like they are still going cold. Like the play calling just absolutely begins to stink. And it's like when a team makes adjustments for them, they don't know what to do. They're a real first half team, and then a team makes adjustments and they kind of clam up and kind of curl up in a ball a little bit. Whereas the Bills kind of, maybe they come out and they take a lot of body shots, but then they kind of like learn, okay, this is what this guy's setting up for. And then in the second half, they open it up. So this could be a game where Bills face adversity early, then they turn it on and they, bring it back, or they just kind of come out of the gates firing and just make the Bengals have to keep up with them, which we've seen the Bengals are able to do. So it's probably could be the best Monday night game of the season. Or maybe the Bills are finally going to turn it on at the right time and kind of squish this Bengals team that everybody's kind of been, hyping up to be like, oh, are they really like this? All comes down. This is where all the marbles are. They beat the Chiefs. We've seen the Chiefs have been pretty pedestrian the last few weeks. They beat the Seahawks today pretty convincingly, but the Seahawks have also been on a downward slide. So I would say that this game is for not only like who's going to be the top dog in the AFC, because if we lose, the Chiefs are going to be the top dog in the AFC, and the Chiefs go through, or the playoffs run through the Chiefs. But I think that this game, the Bills are going to go out and they're going to show that no, we're the team you got to worry about. Like it's time. Narratives are over. We beat the Chiefs. We beat the Ravens. I guess now we can't even say we beat the Titans now that the Jaguars are now the leaders of the South. But, we've kind of beat the teams that you need to beat to prove that you're the top dogs. And the Bengals are just the last one on that list. And I think that they're two teams that, match up pretty well against each other. I think the Bills secondary could be in for it, though, against all of those receiving threats that the that the Bengals have.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, the Bills have beaten pretty much every AFC team that is in contention for playoffs. They've beaten the Chiefs, they've beaten the Titans, they've beaten the Ravens, they've beaten the Dolphins, they've beaten the Jets, they've beaten the Patriots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, clearly they have what it takes to win good game, to win against good teams. As far as the Bengals go, for me, I feel like the Bengals are a good team.
Yeah.
End of discussion. They're a good team. They're not a great team to me. I feel like styles make fights, and I feel like they're a very good matchup for the Chiefs specifically, and I think that's why they're able to beat the Chiefs so much. 3-0 in their last 3 games. I don't think Patrick Mahomes has ever beat the Bengals. I might be mistaken. He probably has actually, but not in the last 2 years. He hasn't. So for us though, I feel like the Bills only get up for good teams. I feel like for the bad teams, they just they're like
they play down.
We're going to beat them. We're not really worried about it. And, obviously, me and you, we know of a Bills player that kind of guaranteed to win this weekend. So, like, we know.
Can we say that now that, they won?
So, yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't see why not. But Jordan Poyer, told me, he's like, we're going to win this week. And,
I'll post it after we win this week.
And
it's just like tough. Yeah. So tough. But yeah, he guaranteed the win.
He did.
so
to me, it kind of feels like they're just like, we're supposed to win this game. So if we just go out, it'll happen. Kind of like the fourth quarter of the Vikings game. If we just go out, it's going to happen. And then, some crazy ass plays later, and the Vikings end up taking it to overtime and winning that game there. But for the Bengals, to me, I feel like they're a good team, and the Bills get up for good teams. And because they're not a great team, I don't really feel like it's going to be that competitive. And I say this all the time, then the Bills come out and they like lay an egg or something. But I don't think this is going to happen. I think they're going to be ready for it. I think that they realize it's crunch time now. It's almost playoff time. It's time to put your big boy pants on. And something tells me that the Chiefs are going to take an L here in these final 2 weeks. And so I feel like we might be resting our starters against the Patriots. But we'll see what happens. If we get a win against the Bengals and Chiefs lost next week, we clinch number 1 seed, and we don't really care what happened with the Patriots game or not. But yeah, I feel like we'll be able to really, I don't want to say blow.
Yeah, they play the Broncos and the Raiders.
And the Broncos would have beat them if not for the Russell Wilson concussion. And the Raiders would have beat them if not for Devontae Adams, not being able to get his feet down on that 3rd down and then running into Hunter Renfrow on the 4th and 1.
Yeah, I have no idea what the Raiders look like right now, but I know last week they lost to not the bet. Who'd they lose to last week? Or no, they beat the
They beat the
Patriots with that
Patriots.
weird, like
Jacoby
Chandler
Myers with the
Jones. Yeah,
stupidest lateral of all time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, man, I think they're gonna beat the Bengals pretty soundly, and I don't think it's gonna be
Mm.
close if I'm being completely honest with you guys. But
I hope you're
we'll
right.
have we have about a week to decipher it and to actually a little more than a week. Oh my god. We gotta wait
I
9
know.
days.
I told you it's gonna be. We are going to be absolutely miserable waiting for that game.
Yeah, we are. It is. It's true. But yeah, man. All right. Buffalo Bills defeat the Chicago Bears 35-12. So Ruben's favorite team beats his second favorite team. Shout out to Ruben Brown. Um, yeah, man. Buffalo Bills get it done here in the second half. They have a dominant second half and they're able to get the win. Started off a little rough, but you know, it's any given Sunday. You gotta do what you gotta do. And I don't think we mentioned it yet. We might have mentioned it. But the Buffalo Bills are now your AFC East divisional champions for the third year in a row. We definitely mentioned it.
Yep,
Before
Bills
we
run
before
the East, baby.
yes, sir. Before we get up out of
And
here,
it's
Jake, let everybody know what
mm.
the Bills winning the AFC East means, for the third year in a row.
Well, to first start out, everybody, I just want you to know I can guarantee wins for the rest of the season because I am every time I wear this hoodie, we're 12-0 this
You
season
really
when I
shouldn't
wear this
take it
hoodie.
off. I'm being completely
So
honest.
we're I can guarantee the Super Bowl is coming home now that we're wearing this but no. It's just a complete culture change, man. We talked about being like I love what Mike had to say here. Chiefs played in a cupcake division. Yeah, we played in one of the
We thought
hardest
it would be
divisions in
flip
football.
flopped.
Weird. Yeah, exactly. And there was also a Nate Peterman appearance, but winning the AFC East 3 years in a
We
row, it's
mentioned that
just
too in the Madden
yeah.
cast. Yeah,
Yeah, I did. And I was
yeah,
like, yeah, probably at this point in the game, you'd see Nate Peterman
yeah,
come
yeah.
in. But yeah, no, I had to bring it up. I'm in a house with a Jets and a Patriots fan. And I said, oh, well, we locked up the division for a third year in a row. And they were like, one of them said, well, what does that really matter if you don't win the Super Bowl? And I said, well, it means that we at least get a chance to win a Super Bowl every year. And he was like, yeah, but if you don't win, it doesn't matter. I'm like, well, at least we get to go to the dance, unlike you three bum ass teams. So, it's I I truly love the fact that we can do that now. It's kind of just complete flip flop, and I feel like Bills fans deserve it. We deserve this. When you have to wait 17 years to see your team go to the playoffs, and you finally see your team built the right way, it is just an absolute culture shock, and it's a privilege every single year to be able to watch this team, talk about them, and to, even though we nitpick and do all that stuff, it's still awesome to be able to have a team that we can root for like this, that is this great on this consistent of a level where 3 years in a row they've been better than three other teams in their division, which one of those teams was a dynasty for 20 years and has maybe one of the best coaches of all time. So it's crazy. I love it. And, Merry Christmas, because the Bills again have given us a division title for Christmas, and it's amazing.
Absolutely, it is amazing, and we'll see if they continue it. Like Jake said, we 17 years straight, no playoffs. Then all of a sudden, we make it to playoffs the last 5 out of 6 years. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
he said it best: a culture change. It's just a complete shift, and it
Never
really
take
is a
it for
blessing
granted.
at all. And I think that's something that Bills fans need to remember is don't take this for granted, because I know you guys remember just like I remember. Josh's rookie year was pretty terrible. To be a fan that year, we didn't really have anything going for us except for this, super talented kid, who had potential, but the rest of the league was mocking and telling us he's going to be hot doo-doo dumpster garbage. And, he turned out not to be. And then that second year, to get the 10 wins meant everything in the world. To get that win over the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving meant everything in the world. And, to see Josh fumble a snap, pick it up and run through, it was absolute pandemonium in Buffalo. And then after that, the wheels fell off and it just started going crazy. And, now we have one of, if not the best team in the league 3 years running. And it really is a blessing. So, again, Bills fans, I know we want to chip real bad, but let's be appreciative of what we do get on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, which is not a terrible quarterback with a decent defense and winning only 7 games a year. So
yeah, exactly. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us today. The Buffalo Bills defeat the Chicago Bears 35-13 and get a nice little comfortable win over a team that they should get a comfortable win over, and they go out there and they do their jobs, and look forward to the rest of the season. And they are still the AFC's 1 seed as well as the AFC East division champs. So shout out to the Buffalo Bills. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the stream. You guys know we appreciate every single like, comment, subscription, retweet, repost, share. Every single piece of engagement you guys give us, we appreciate it because we love you guys and we do this for you guys. So thank you for all the support. We will see you again later this week. Check out Built Different Friday nights at 9 typically. And also check out The Lowdown with Jake Jordan Fridays on the official network of the original Bills Mafia. I'm Justice. That's Jake. We are out. Go Bills.
Merry Christmas and go Bills.
Merry Christmas.